This is 888 7th, which is right down the street, and this is a. You don't have to be silent while you're watching it. It's not. But it's a. Sorry, it's a Macromedia is next door, and this guy put up a webcam. This is all posted on the web, and these are months. Does anybody have the time? 7:05. We're going to wait like a couple more minutes, or yeah. But so this, it's on 7th Street, right by the Baker Hamilton, and the first video was driving the piers. I don't know if Daniel is here. Maybe they're drilled piers. I don't actually know much about this stuff. I just I hand wave. And it's a light steel frame building with this really big garage in the middle, which you can't see because it's ringed by sort of townhouses and retail and different things. There's a I present the building, but I just thought this was a really interesting thing. So these projects are so huge, and you see that crane there, which had like a 350-foot reach. There's a San Francisco Sand and Gravel is right down the street, and they just swung the crane over and picked the sheetrock up without putting on a truck. There's some more seats. We're not started yet, so you should just go in there and get combobulated. Because I think I have to be introduced. You don't have to introduce me. I can do it. I'm David. Okay. So I'm going to do the next month, and you don't have to be respectful. You can talk and stuff for this. Okay, this is January 2007. Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit. This building is called a Type 2 FR, I think, which is Type 2. It's light steel, and it has about one of those really big numbers, a googolplex of screws in it, because all the steel screws together. And the thing is that steel, when you do like a little interior, they use really light steel, and you can just drive the screw right through. It's self-tapping. These are really heavy steel, so you have to clamp it, drill a hole, and then drive the screw. So like 140 carpenters have spent years just driving this googolplex of screws. And as the contractors said, we've become the world's expert on this construction type. And as the project manager for the contractor said, yeah, my advice is don't do it. Makes a good building, but I think a framing contractor didn't multiply. It's 5 seconds times the googolplex. But it's 30 seconds times the googolplex, and that's a really lot of time. And that adds up to years.
Okay.
So we're going to go, yeah.
We're going. We're live. Hi, I'm Tom Falders. I teach in the architecture department here, and it's my pleasure to introduce tonight's speaker, David Baker. And I'm going to start with a couple of quotes. First is, here's what I think the truth is. We are all addicts of fossil fuels in a state of denial, about to face cold turkey. And like so many addicts about to face cold turkey, our leaders are now committing violent crimes to get what little is left of what we're hooked on. This was Kurt Vonnegut in 2004. And I'll follow up with another quote. Anyone who don't love this life is crazy. And that was Manuel from Manuel's Tavern in Atlanta, Georgia. These two quotes and others like them are visibly circulated through David Baker and Partners' website and monthly newsletter. David has never been shy about broadcasting his beliefs regarding political activism, the creation of sustainable cities, and the use of alternative forms of transportation, as well as the simple joys gained through living in dense urban communities. Yet for those of us that have known or worked with David, he has been an exceptional inspiration as someone who does not hide behind glossy quotes, but is actually living their messages and convincing others to do so as well. David has founded one of the most active practices in the Bay Area, and I'm sure we'll see this evening, has created a prolific body of forward-thinking public and market-rate multifamily housing that has gained a national following. Working with the entire spectrum of development, local politics, community groups, and emerging technologies, David Baker plus Partners is engaged and interested in all aspects of the processes that allow cities to grow and for new buildings to be built. Amazingly, as this practice grows, David still remains committed to practicing what he preaches. An avid cyclist, he can be seen in his bright yellow jacket riding his bicycle to attend client meetings and board meetings, and is frequently directing bicycle tours of San Francisco, Oakland, and Emeryville as a means to engage the public in discussions about our cities. For this work, David Baker and Partners has won over 75 awards since 2000. I know because I counted them today on your website. Thus far in 2007, these include a National Affordable Housing Award for the Delmas Park Project, an Excellence in Architecture Citation Award from the SFAIA, a National Honor Award in General Design from the American Society of Landscape Architects, and 2 awards from the Pacific Coast Builders Conference for Best Attached Housing Project and Best Affordable Project over 40 units per acre. David remains committed to teaching and education, and along with his active lecture schedule and published articles, he has taught at UC Berkeley, was the John Portman Visiting Critic at the Georgia Institute of Technology in 2006, and has taught design studios in our own program here at CCA. Finally, he's a board member of the San Francisco Bicycle Coalition and for SPUR, which is the San Francisco Planning and Urban Research Association, and in 1996 was selected as a fellow of the American Institute of Architects. He has a degree in philosophy, has worked as a union carpenter, and evidently, as I saw in the email flyer circulating today, has recently learned to knit. So please join me in welcoming David Baker.
Thank you, Tom, and I'm going to get this right. Yes on A and no on H. I don't know how many people are voting in San Francisco, but there's a really important election coming up where Don Fisher, who's the president of the Gap and our, what do you call him? He's one of the few Republicans left in San Francisco, but he's put this thing on the ballot called Parking for Neighborhoods, and it basically allows 10,000 parking spaces to be added to the downtown with no zoning controls, and it allows you to do stuff like put a garage driveway through a bus stop, all kinds of great things. And he isn't funding advertising for it. People in parking, I'll vote for this, but it's this truly disastrous initiative. H, vote against H and vote for A. The Muni fight that because I didn't want to forget to say that. Ooh. Hang on. Okay. So this is, my dad was actually dropped out of school in the 9th grade, and because he had to ride a horse 10 miles in Michigan before the, it was like 1914. He was born in 1899, and he then did various things in his life. And at one point, he was actually a migrant farm worker. That's how he started, and then he read the autobiography of Frank Lloyd Wright and moved to Arizona. Built a passive solar rammed earth house, and I had me. So I was born in this house. So I think it's a really I thought it was normal. So I can say it was a real victory of continuing education. He had all kinds of great modern furniture. I went to the show in at the museum L.A. of modern furniture case study houses, and it was like going into our living room. We had all that stuff. Okay, so I call this better living through density, or better living through location efficiency. And I think that density may be being rehabilitated as a word, but it is, if you go to zoning hearings, it's used a lot as an example of something that's bad, and that it's almost immoral. So I think that it is an individual choice. I think as we go into the future and we really start to get serious about carbon footprint, which we really haven't done yet. We're just beginning to think about that. That living closer together is one of the the greenest things you can do, actually. So that my premise is that the most important thing is planning, and then architecture follows that. This is interesting because I had started out with this picture a few years back, and it was taken during Katrina. It was during that pop in gas prices, and everybody was totally horrified. And this is Folsom Street, last spring, and the prices the regular prices had actually caught up with the Katrina crisis. And I think that we'll see more interesting things in the future. So we have the developer actually in the house here on this one. I'm going to start with a market rate project, a small one, and it's called Blue Star Corner. It's in Emeryville, and what this is it's a townhouse. We were shortlisted on a competition in Amsterdam a few years back, and we went to Amsterdam to sort of check it out. And actually it's how I really started riding a bike, because Amsterdam is bike heaven, but it's still kind of scary. And I figured if I could do it there, I could do it here. But the other thing we did is looked at a lot of townhouses. They have those whole Eastern Docklands, and if you go there, I'd suggest visiting it with these very narrow new canal houses. And so we saw those and thought, gosh, maybe we could do those in the United States. And Kevin Wakeland, I'm not going to use a laser pointer on you, Kevin, but was with me there, and actually is one of the primary instigators of this. So these are 4 rows of these little tiny townhomes that achieve they're quite dense. We get 43 units per acre, and I'll keep talking about that. It's something that, if you're an architect or an architect geek, you know what that means. But that's pretty dense. That's almost apartment building density. And this is the picture in Amsterdam. That's actually all one group of townhouses, very narrow townhouses. And actually, got Brian Rose here, who's from Amsterdam. Okay, so and just taken many of these pictures, so the photographer for the good pictures is in the house too. So Kevin Wilcock in my office worked a lot on this. That was his picture in the beginning, and this was an interesting site because we did I think about 5 schemes for it, and at one point one of the developers let it go, and Michael Graves was going to do a order by mail, over the internet townhouse, right? Yeah, it was like that was a .com company, right? You were going to order your high-density urban townhouse. Anyway, it was a good idea, but it didn't. They didn't get there. So this is the concept, and I don't know if this is scary or not. That's the final landscape architect's design plan. So they really got worked out with a lot of detail. Essentially, what it is it's Muse housing, and I just went to China, and they actually do the same thing in Shanghai, and they call it Li Liang housing. But it's a very narrow townhouse with basically a front and a back, so you get through ventilation, and you alternate. In this case, there's parking Muse. I'm not totally anti-parking. I am totally anti-parking, but I have to do it every once in a while. How's that sound? And then there's a little landscape Muse, and quite narrow. This shows the section. CMG is the landscape architects, who are just great. So you see that it's a very tall, skinny space, but then when you go there, it's open on the ends. It's really quite nice. And then this is the parking Muse. Again, everything was just really tight. One of the things, I would say the concept here was to do a townhouse where they were integrated design, but you have a sense of individuality in your own home, and not have it look like Levittown. So I was really nervous about this because, it's really hard to be different architects if you're one architect, so you don't want to make it look contrived. But it is an idea, I think, that's good, because then you can go, I live in the blue one. And then the parking lanes are very narrow, and they're just narrow enough to to drive in and out. And so this was a really great idea that the landscape architect came up with. This is a vine pocket, and we're in the digital age, so you can't really see pictures anymore. And slide presentations, this would all be gorgeous, but now it's all kind of ground through the digital blender. But anyway, there's cables that go across. So these vines will go across the parking mews. The other thing that was really neat, and this is that Emeryville has a 1% for art, right? It's 1% for art requirement even on private development. Something that San Francisco should have, because you have to do something fun, and you just accept it. And we worked with Walter Craven, who's a really good architect and furniture designer. What's the name of his company? It's Blanket Cables, yeah. They do wonderful stuff. And they do these insane series of stainless steel gimbaled bird houses. They're just, I don't know if any birds are in them yet. I'm hoping, but they're really wonderful, and they really, that's something that I've gotten to do. That's one of my goals in life, was to get some art in projects. And this year we saw a couple of those, because we don't do public buildings. In public buildings you get to do it, but typically we have to talk somebody into it, and that involves, I won't say kicking and screaming. In Kevin's case, he was totally on board. But your typical condo developer, you say, we want to do giant murals in your lobbies, and you have to stay on it, or it doesn't happen. So inside, this is a 15 by 30 foot footprint, and there are 4 levels, 3 stories, with a double height level. So this is a double height level here, and it's a living room. And then there's this kitchen. On the half level, we got really, I don't know if creative or what the exact word is. There's this little landing, and this can't be a full story. So this is not a room. This is a chill pod, and it's a little upholstered space, which is really nice. You got this digital TV that swings in, and there's Brittany demonstrating. It's got a window in it. So that's actually not a livable space, because you can't stand up. But it makes this great place to hang out. And then on the we did little balconies. It's so tight you really don't even want to extend the balconies out. But this is a glass with the door opening in, and there's a really nice Japanese soaking tub. And this is I'm showing this because we never show interiors, because we do affordable housing. And the interiors of affordable housing look really good if you're looking for an apartment, because you can live there. But you don't really want to show them to people, because they're pretty much like an apartment. So that's, I don't know if you saw that. Let's go again. This is a Murphy bed that we built into the model that Paco Prieto did. And the other thing, this is interesting. This is probably the favorite feature. Shows how, I don't know if gullible is the word, but it's a little thing you plug in your iPod, or in this case, you can plug in your iPhone, and play your music. It's in the wall in the kitchen, so you come in and stick your iPod in that and play the music with wireless speakers. And people really go crazy for that feature. So it's good. I think I'd kind of like one. So I have a few of these slides, and bear with me. And if you start leaving, I'll know I'm going on too long. So if you leave, try to be really disruptive, okay? Don't sneak out, So why density? So you take the Bay Area, and if you do the Bay Area Business Council to keep even with housing, you got to add 200,000 units to the greater Bay Area by 2020. So if you take San Francisco is 47 square miles, and if you take sort of regular urban density and you add some schools and roads and stuff, you get that's 83 square miles. That's not suburban development. I mean, forget suburban development. That's urban, fairly high density development. So the question goes is, where do you put 83 square miles of new city in the Bay Area, or is it really a good thing to have all those people live in Modesto? So that's why it's high density, and that's the only way you're going to fit people in, even come close to fitting people in. And if you don't, then prices continue to go up because you have a lack of supply. So these are the market rate. These are the two market rate projects we're starting with. And this is JT, who works at our office, and he's a real fanatic guy. He went to military school, so that's his kind face. It is. He's a good guy. So this is another little light steel frame building. It's in Jack London Square, and it's got retail, and it's pretty normal, except that it's got a few interesting things. This is the digital model, and then there's the real building. One of the things you'll see a bunch of these digital models. We're working in a single digital model mode now. So we build a digital model of the building, and that's the working drawings too. And it's really, I think it's revolutionized our practice because it's allowed us to be much more responsive, and it allows us to actually tell what's happening, because this isn't something that we are sending off to the young kids with the Form Z, and then they do the thing for the community meeting. This is something that we can put on the working drawings, and it changes as we change things, or as it goes through value engineering and things get cut off. It actually changes. So you can see, like, oh my God. And we had some really good examples of, where you kind of look at the model and you go, what happened here? And then you get to avoid, some huge mistake. This was interesting. We colored that orange, and we thought that the planning commission was going to get really mad at us and make us change it. And then so we did, and we tried to change it. We tried. Because the developer's going, I don't know if we really want that orange. So we came back to our second meeting, and they go, what did you do? We love the orange. So, it's like that's kind of you get what you might get what you wish for. Larissa Sand Studios did a lot of work with us, and they've worked with us for many years, and did this wonderful gate. One of the things we do is try to do a front entry garden courtyard whenever we can, just so when you come off the street, you go into a little bit of green. And Larissa, it used to be South Park Fab, I think it's Sand Studios now, did this really wonderful awning up there. So this is very compressed little green space that's off the street. That's it's our I use the term feng shui compliance, where you go in and you're not inside the building, but you're not in the urban situation anymore. The other thing that we did, which I like here, was we did a series of two-story lobbies. So the building has these little stacked sky lobbies. And this is the ground floor, which has this bamboo casework. And then as you go up on floors 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, there's the same double height. And that gave us an opportunity, actually. We had these big walls, they're 20 by 20 foot walls, and I convinced the developer to let us commission a couple of really large murals. So this is Andrew Schultz, who's the birdhouse guy. You see his stuff around the Mission, and really a wonderful, crazy guy, and did great work. And this is Casey Jex Smith, who did another one of these big pieces. So that's like 19 feet high, and then it's actually a little bigger than that image. And it's really fun to do that, and I feel just wonderful to support them. The building has a hidden garage. It has commercial spaces, live work spaces that are primarily commercial. That's the little entry court and the little tiny lobby, and then it's got a really nice corner retail space. And then the garage this is kind of the boring part, but it's sloped so that instead of having a ramp, it interlocks like that. So you enter at each end at grade, and then one tray goes up and the other tray goes down. So it's super efficient that way. And then it has these, this is this little studio unit where the bed is up on a platform. It's the last bed on a platform we'll ever do because the ADA has been changed, so you can't have a bed on a platform anymore if you can get to your apartment with an elevator. Well, you know, I guess it's good. Anyway, and then this is the little kitchen looking out, so that bed would be to the right there. And then in back, this rear yard has these private patios and decks that look out to the East Bay Hills. Okay, so you know, what about density? So how do you make it so it isn't awful? You know, so that people, because really the zoning, you know, the idea of if you take a suburb which is like 4 houses per acre, why do people do that? You know, do they do it because they really like to drive their kids around for 5 or 6 hours on the weekends, or do they do it because they do it because they feel it's a better life? But maybe in the city you can do a better job than the tenements that were the original inspiration for zoning to stop that sort of exploitation. So we do a number of things. You know, we try to always make the pedestrian level active, and which is harder than you think in the modern age because there's more services now. You can't like make the services as small. You know, PG&E they want a transformer and they want a big roll-up door and they want a door you can walk through. They only go there once every 20 years, but they take up about 20 foot of sidewalk and make it a transformer. You know, so it doesn't do a lot for the urban life. So you know, we put retail and services. A lot of the affordable projects we put common rooms, and now what I call residential prosody, which just means you put stoops or porches, and planners like that too. It's good for the planners push that, so you have an ally there, and then what we try to do is a green area, some little pocket park, or you know, or really intense street planning. You know, we tend to have big parks. We have big everything in the United States, right? And we have big refrigerators, big cars, and we have big parks because the Parks and Recs people want to have a big park that's easier to take care of. And I was in Barcelona, and they have these little tiny parks, and little tiny parks are a good idea. And it's probably better, more effective to have a lot of little tiny parks than maybe one big park that has a lot of great things in it. We tend to have, you know, big parks like McLaren that are big and don't have anything in them. But that sort of intensity. Okay, so this is Peter McKenzie, one of my partners, who was in charge of this building, and this is Brian Rose's photograph. We're starting with the Brian Rose photograph. But this is rental housing in San Francisco that we did for nonprofits. It's on 8th and Howard. You might be familiar. It's got an urban harvest market on the ground level, and it's quite dense again, and is parking limited, which means that we have 66 parking spaces, or parking unbundled, and for 172 units. So what do we do instead of put parking in? Well, there's a bunch of things, and that's one of the. You know, it's when people think of parking, first they think their cars are really small. And anybody, I don't know how many people participated or saw Parking Day, but it's really shocking to people when you take, you know, Parking Day is where they take one parking space and you convert it into a little park. And we did that last year and I think we had 20-some people having lunch in a parking space. It's amazing. Some people go by and they actually start screaming at you because, you know, you're doing the wrong thing. The premise of Parking Day is that you feed the meter, and it doesn't actually say in the code that you have to park in it. It's a great event, and it's gotten much bigger every year. It's really good. CCA, I don't know if CCA did one. It's really fun. It's so shocking. It changes your mind. Well, so what do you do where this garage would be? Well, you know, we have retail. There's a Aikido studio that serves youth there. There's a grocery store that's, you know, pretty decent grocery store. A lot of a great organic salad bar. There's which is too expensive compared to Safeway. I won't even get into that. I'll start ranting and raving about that, you know, but I won't. And then it has child care. This is a double stacked garage, so 66 parking spaces is still, you know, you're spending millions of dollars to house these cars. And we have this is the first private or enclosed city car share pod. The nonprofit developer is really great. They allow people with car share pods to go in there. And then you have open space. You have an open entry court and a daycare with a courtyard. So those are all things you do instead of, because if you don't do that, this is what like one-to-one parking looks like. It's actually one-to-one parking is bigger than that. It's just all garage. Now, we've seen this building, right? You walk by it, and you look in. There's a grating with fluorescent lights and cars, and there's people kind of sleeping around the edge, and it's pretty awful. You know, he doesn't encourage you to get out and walk. It's bad in just about every way, I think. But it's what you do. It's the most cost-effective, and it's what makes sense economically, because the cars are worth more than the grocery store. The grocery store has a hard time making it. So this is the grocery store, it's Harvest Urban Market, on the ground level. And this is an SRO above. An SRO is a single-room occupancy hotel. It's for lower-income people who it's run by TNDC, who's a great developer. One of the things we learned here is that when you get relatively low-income people above a grocery store, you need to put waterproof sealant on the slab penetrations, because we had 5 people within like 2 months decide to get really high, like drunk or something, but they first started to pour a bath. And then they flooded the grocery store. So we actually went back and put these little things to catch the water. And as soon as we did that, of course, it's Murphy's Law, nobody did it again. It was just, nobody had ever done it, and it was pretty scary. So this is a family side. That thing, this is along Howard Street, and this is the family housing, which is 2s and 3s and 1 bedrooms. And then we do these awnings that are steel, because then you don't have to replace them. This is some conceptual art. And then this is the entry courtyard, which is interesting to me, because it's this very narrow slot, and it goes through the building, so it allows you to see to the other block there. And again, this is Sand Studio. We scraped together some money from the developer, and there was some public art money, and there was what the contractor would have charged us to do the gate. And we did this gate, which is really quite beautiful. And it has these little fountains. So each side, there's 2. What they were really worried about, the population of the single-room occupancy hotel and the families shouldn't mix. You know, because you think a residential hotel has people who are not family-oriented. We'll get back to that, though, in a second. So you go in here, and this is Feng Shui compliance again. You go in there, and you kind of calm down. And then this is that slot that goes all the way through. And one of the things about open space in the city is that I think it's really important to have your courtyards address the street, because if you just make it so only the residents can see them, it's great, but you don't know it's there, and most people aren't going in there and looking at it. So this really it makes the scale of this project a lot smaller, and people can look in and see the planting up there without having to go inside. This is we put services. This is the services for the SRO. There's like a TV lounge. This is a smoking balcony. And, there's counselors in there and things like that, and the laundry. This is the upstairs, where you're kind of above the street. There's a common room here, and the affordable units we have had the most fun doing the plans for, because they were completely inefficient, which is that's what we really like to do. When you do affordable housing, you got to do a lot of efficient plans, and then you get to do some inefficient things, which is irrational. All the fun things in life are irrational. And then this shows, this is interesting, because you see that palm tree there, that's planted on entry court, and it starts about 12 foot lower. So this is one of the reasons why it's good to have not a garage under a palm tree, because the palm tree, this is a palm tree in a pot, and that's a palm tree, that's your palm tree in ground. It can grow a lot bigger and be happier. So it's like, be kind to palm trees and plants. This is a family courtyard, which is really quite nice. It's quite serene. This is a indication of a really great developer, because they didn't have their attorney say, oh no, you can't put a sandbox in because the cats will go poop in the sandbox and you'll get sued. And believe it or not, that's why sandboxes don't appear in housing. It's like legal advice. And these guys went, well, maybe we can clean the sandbox. This is on the family side, and they actually made a little gate to close off the evil residents of the residential hotel, the single male guys you don't want to have around your kids. So I was there was a woman sitting there with two kids playing. I go, well, what do you think? They left the door open. It turned out it was politically necessary to do that. The Plan Commission wanted. Everybody was much more comfortable because they had this vision of the single room occupancy people as being bad. And I said, what do you think of that door? Does it worry you to have that door there to the SRO? And she goes, doesn't worry me because that's where I live. And she was living there with, and that's one of the things people don't realize is you have a single mother, she might be having some issues, end up on the street, her kids are with her family, and then she can move into a place with a kitchen and a bathroom, and then she can have her kids with her. There's fantastic stories you get when you talk to people in these places. We did the interiors here, Michelle Peckham, and so we had this is IKEA, I think in Blue Dot, and some DWR stuff. DWR gave us a break. So and this is because we do this like to break even because for many years we didn't do the interiors and it was so painful for me to visit the building. I was like, oh God, that's an ugly couch. So now I get it's totally a luxury for me to not like be really depressed when I visited. And then this is actually the lobbies. We do these double height lobbies, so it's more like people. The idea is that for people to think it's really luxury stuff. But on this side, there's actually a couple of guys who had lived in the SRO and said, what do you like about this place? And they said, well, what's really great is we have a freezer and we can have ice cream. So we can wake up in the middle of the night and have ice cream. And they had been like 12 years not being able to have ice cream. And so that was like really a meaningful thing. You tend to get into this kind of let them eat cake notion when you actually, aren't in a really hard place in the city. Okay. So center public green space, what does that mean? Feng Shui compliance, entry courtyards, internal courtyards visible from the street, and private decks and patios. And we get that a lot where people say, oh, it's too cold in San Francisco to have a deck. And all I can say is that those people haven't looked at any decks because people use their decks a lot. And maybe they use them to have a barbecue once in a while. Maybe they just put a plant out there and they look through the window. But I think, it's so important to have private open space outside. So this is Daniel Simons, who he led the kind of greening of the office, I would say. And this is kind of interesting because this is a digital model, and the way you can tell is that that's not a real person. That's a sketch that I did stuck in there, but that looks pretty real, and I don't know, it's kind of scary, right? And then there's the real building, so it's interesting. So this is a building that we did on Folsom and Dorr, and it's again very dense. It's 98 units, 172 units per acre, so over it's 4 times as dense as Blue Star Corner. And it's parking, again, unbundled, whatever. It's got 30 spaces and a car share pod. And the developer was great. They really wanted to do a lead building. And the contractor, Taylor, was, I forget the last name, Taylor Robinson, yeah, was fabulous. She was just out of construction administration school. Was driving her recycled vegetable oil car, and said, we're gonna do a lead building here, and just kind of kicked everybody's butt until we did it. And we went through, and without a huge cost, we got certified. We got certified at LEED Silver, which was like really a miracle. And then we kind of looked on the internet, like how many LEED Silver housing projects, how many LEED Silver new construction projects are there? How many certified ones in San Francisco? Well, as of when this was done, when this got certified last spring, there were none. It was really, and you hear all the press releases. Well, it's registered, and you go in, you apply for it, but to actually get them, the U.S. Green Building Council to review everything and send you the little plaque, is really hard. There's renovations and there's interiors, but so this became the first multifamily LEED certified building of any kind in Northern California, and it's really neat that it was done. It's supportive housing. This is a little later in the pipeline of the affordable housing effort in San Francisco, and it's part of Newsom's notion that to really focus on formerly homeless, the cash not care and all that sort of stuff. So, and one of the ways to make that work is you put supportive services in the building, so when people are having issues, because they've been living on the street and they want somebody to talk to about vacuuming or something like that. I mean, seriously, it's really a re-domestication process that they're there. What was really interesting about this building is the developer decided to have some essentially market rate units too. So out of the 98 units, about 20 basically rent for what everything else rents for in San Francisco, and the rest are we have people making down to no money at all. So this is Dwayne, and that's his private outdoor space, and he's was a really happy guy. A lot of these people are in this this shelter revolving door. I mean, I think you could put most people in that situation, and you would go crazy. It's not like somehow you get into it, and you're in a situation that reinforces not being able to deal with stuff. You're sleeping somewhere, people kick you out at 6 a.m., you wander around the streets all day, you go back in, you stay there for 30 days, and they tell you, well, good luck, goodbye, here's your shopping cart back. How does that solve the problem? And it's very expensive because people use a lot of emergency care services, so it's actually a lot cheaper to give people a place to live than it is to pick them up off the street with an ambulance. So this is the services area. This is our historicist moment, and it was interesting. There was a brick warehouse there, and we decided to keep it because it was a mitigation for tearing down the warehouse in the EIR. And it was our chance to actually get a material besides stucco. I mean, somebody said, "Well, you do these buildings. What materials do you use?" And we said, "Well, we use hardy plank and stucco." And I go, "What other materials do you use?" And we go, "Well, sometimes we get some metal. In this building, the metal got value engineered out. So we got some brick, which we never would have gotten otherwise, which really changes. It's a little more detailed. The other thing it did is it gives a two-story space on the street. So it was kind of a trick for the developer, because we told them, we didn't tell them when we were keeping that we had to keep the front at 2 stories. So it doesn't look so squashed. It makes a nice high open area. So this is the little garage, and that it's supportive service space and a community room. We try to put the community rooms so they're accessible from the street, and they're really a resource. They get used all the time. This is door alley. So there's that's the non-computer. It actually is a computer visualization, because we did a 3D model and then sketched over it. And there's the built building. The difference here is that was really nice standing seam metal, and then this is gray stucco. Oh yeah. Anyway, this is how you get a 50-foot high building with 98 units in 0.6 acres. We have our own little thing. If you saw that unit I was showing you in the luxury 202nd, this is the same thing, and it's a unit we invented, which I don't think anybody copies. And I don't know if that means that we're smarter or we're dumber than everybody else, because they interlock. So we get like a little studio that interlocks with the one bedroom. So there's actually a bigger picture of it. So this is the very small version, and this has in size two bedrooms, and it has a little tot lot. Okay, yeah. So it's kind of complicated. See, this is the studio, but you get a little place for your bed, and this is the one bedroom, and so that bedroom tucks behind it. What that ends up doing, it means it can be very narrow, and you can get a lot more apartments in the same space, and you can lie in bed and look out the window and all that stuff. So it's pretty nice, actually. And then on the top floor, they convinced the tax credit people to let a loft be a bedroom. So this is a one bedroom, and it's got this little loft. And for a lot of people, if you're a single parent or something, it's really great, because it gives you a place where your kid can have a space that's not in the middle of the living room. So this is the real thing. That's the computer visualization. That's real, just so to keep track. And then the other thing we did, and I think this was another first too. This was the first photovoltaic array on affordable housing in San Francisco, and got a nice system up there. It runs a lot of the house electricity. It has a car share pod also, which is now a Prius. And then this is the it has a tot lot, and you get kids. I think there's in this development there's about 12 kids. It's relatively small. This is interesting because my Metropolitan Home does this thing called the Design 100, and they pick 100 things once a year that they put on a big list. And so my mom calls me up and she goes, "Oh, you know, you're in Metropolitan Home this month." And I went, "No, I'm not," because they would have talked to me. And she goes, "No, I know you are." I go, "How do you know I am?" She goes, "Well, I saw this building and I thought either you did it or somebody was copying you. But then I saw your face." And so I ran out and bought a copy. Oh, and it was pretty fun because they do, you know, just anything. So this year they had one of the Design 100 was black, and the number 11 was actually Spain, and we were 10, and I was saying, you know, like I'll trade, you know, Spain for Folsom Door. I mean, you know, this is pretty nice, but I'd take Spain. Okay, so you know, parking strategies, and so I think, you know, it's hard for me not to go kind of crazy about it because I've been reading all this climate change stuff, and you know, we've got a big problem, and we've got to really stop whining about crap and start thinking about what our grandkids are, you know, how many are going to survive. I mean, really important things, and we're in total denial about it. But anyway, you can leave now if you want. He's going crazy, off the handle. So, you know, unbundling car parking, and you know, that's really important to not have to put this. Well, I often say, you know, that the only thing we have socialized in the United States is parking. You know, you don't have. You get old, you're screwed. Too bad, unless you have like a really big IRA. Yeah. Well, it's good you asked. We'll get to that. Yeah. So anyway, and so you have I lost my train here. So unbundling. So it really makes sense to, you know, to like treat it like capitalism would be, that if you have a need for something, you build it and then people pay for it, right? And that's actually more efficient. We do that with everything, you know, health services, you name it. And what we don't do it with is parking. That's a right, you know, and people get really upset about it. And you'd think you'd be more upset about, you know, 1 billion people starving to death in 50 years than about finding a parking space. But no, you know. So and you have car sharing, and bike parking is very important, doing that right. So anyway, this is Curran House. This is with TNDC, which is Tenderloin Neighborhood Development Corporation. It's run by Franciscans. My grandfather sent. I was raised. All my parents were born atheists, not lapsed Catholics. Atheists. My grandfather sent the priest away from his deathbed. So I do like affordable housing, and you know, it's done. The Catholic Church, I mean, they're great. They do a lot of the affordable housing. They're out there and they have this, you know, idea of social service. So this is Franciscan monks really head up TNDC. So it's 100% family housing, very dense. Again, it's 226 units per acre. Boy, you know, so but that's 30% 3 bedrooms. So there's a lot of people in here, and it has zero parking spaces. The way we had to get a variance, even though it was in the Tenderloin, and what actually changed it would cost about $70,000 of space to put the parking in because it was the situation there, and we counted 600. There were 600 spaces within 2 blocks that were renting for $150. At 70,000 means you as a taxpayer pay $500 a month to provide a parking space for people in the building, so they can walk within 2 blocks and store their car for, you know, what, a quarter of the price. But there's other costs too. So anyway, this is the ground level, and actually this is interesting because this is a retail space. That would have been a garage ramp, and right now there's a guy who lives in the building, a formerly homeless guy, who's opened a barber shop in the retail space. That would have been a garage ramp, and then there's a 3-bedroom unit here that would have, you know, the garage ramp would have. You can only go down so fast with cars, so that would have been ramped too. And then this is a garden in the back. We aren't raising vegetables there, but it's nice. It's on grade, pretty much, and that's not on top of a slab. So this is a building. It's a mid-rise building. We broke it into two things. This is a design thing. It's one thing. It was a big fat thing, and there's two things. They're more slender. And then we tried to relate them so that it isn't pretending to be two completely different things. It's just visually broken up. This is interesting. This is that's the planning department. The planning code requires that you respect the 65-foot uniform cornice line of the area. Now this building here, nobody told them that they had to be 65 foot high, and most of the buildings aren't 65 foot high. But so we matched the cornice, and we made it something that looked as little like a cornice as we possibly could. The great thing about it was then, though, when in the value engineering phase, people go, "Can we take that out?" And you go, "Oh no, the planners, it's in the conditional use permit. No way to get rid of that." Ha ha. So this is, and then the other thing we did here is we did pre-graffitied the building. And one thing and this has become a real slogan, because when you talk to people, and it really, I was just there, and somebody said, "What is?" I was talking to somebody. They were doing food bank, and she said, "This is a miracle for me." The people say that all the time. It shocks me of how grateful and enriched the people who live here are. But anyway, so and what's nice too, it's not like people won't tag affordable housing or something that it feels like has care to it, but they tag it less. And the only thing that's been done in the front of this building is somebody put those there's a little star. There's 5 little stars like you get as a kindergarten when you get this star on your forehead, and that's really the only modification that's happened. And this is in the Tenderloin, so it's good. I mean, and that is the door to the transformer, I think. And then this shows these balconies. The developer was very worried. TNDC is kind of a consensus organization, and they were very worried about people jumping to their death. And I actually had to, this is the secret of getting something like this in, is I actually got down on my knees and begged the executive director to keep the balconies in. And at the end he said, "Well, you were right, it's really great. People go out there, and it gives people relate to the street. It gives a bridge to the street." Yeah, this is the sketch. Those are the nice light fixtures that didn't make it through the budget. And one of those funny people, that's not a digital rendering, just so you know. And then this is we convinced the fire department that was the hallway. And you can have like a really great event there. This is a glass garage door that opens up to the rear yard. This building was just given a National Landscape Architecture award here. Andrea Cochran did it. I'm going to have to speed up. It's going to be kind of like speed dating for the rest of the lecture, I think. So this is the back. And then on the roof, we have some vegetable gardens. Now they aren't going to feed everybody in the building, but it's really great. A lot of people live in the Tenderloin used to be farmers, and they are poor, and they move to the United States, and they end up living in the Tenderloin. And so we have these little plots, and we didn't like clean that up. They banked the onions, and right now there's all these flowers up there. It's really nice. And this is what you get. You get half of this, but there's a big waiting list for it, and the people doing this had to fight really hard, and it's a real testament that we got the funding to do this, because it isn't viewed as a necessity, but it's good. And the laundry room opens out to that. And these are the unit plans, which I'm not going to go into. They're tortured. I describe them as tortured unit plans. And this is what happens when you move from an 8x10 hotel room into a 1-bedroom apartment. This is not an empty apartment, and he had an altar. And eventually I probably got a chair and stuff, but it's one of my favorite things. So why do you density? What do you save? You save land, you save roads, you save sewers, you save parking, you save water pipes, you save electrical wires, and you save you save exterior wall surface. It's much. And, what I like to say is that the crappy old apartment building in the middle of the city is much greener building than the multi-million-dollar 5,000 square foot solar house, 50 miles from Reno, which people build, and they have money, they can do it, but it's actually not a sustainable thing to do. Oh. Okay, I don't know, I think people are up for this. This is a video. Has anybody seen the Dwell video? 2 people? It's 4 minutes. We'll do it, and yeah. We can have a break, and everybody who wants to leave can leave. And, oh, this is an ad, by the way. My dad, everybody thought he was nuts. He built these flat roof solar houses in Michigan. Can they hear this? And they were all just super modern, built in the late 40s. We're going to stop it. And they had like huge glass. Okay. Okay, so this is down the street. This is the building that video, that Macromedia stop action was showing. So this is 7th, this is King, and we're about there. This is interesting because it's fairly, it's not as dense, but it's got a lot of money from the Rincon Hill high-rises. Yeah, it just wasn't, it was playing, it just wasn't loud. Okay, I'm going to keep talking here. Yeah, okay, I'll go through it. But it's 176 BMRs. It means ownership, and people can, yeah, you can see them. Just go to the Dwell website. Yeah, it's just me. It's just like me, except I'm riding a bicycle. I could bring my bicycle in here and ride it around. The video, what I'm saying is, they were fascinated I ride a bicycle, so I'm on the bicycle in the entire video. I thought that was really strange or interesting. So this is completely wrapped. So there's retail facing 7th Street, townhouses. This is Mission Creek, and we put a park on top of it. Townhouses face the park, and we have something here that we did this again. It was one of these things, and as architecture students, don't be afraid to do something really strange, because a lot of times people they'll go for it. We did this space. We called it the weird space, and it was this egg-shaped space because it's going to be a cafe. And at one point I thought, we're going to the Planning Commission. We can't call it the weird space. And we changed it to, cafe or retail or something. And the developer goes, "Oh, you took off weird space. That was my favorite thing." So the weird space stayed in. And we call it the egg, actually. And then you got to do these really crazy units on top, because you can't do a rational unit in an egg. So they're these crazy 3 bedrooms. This building also has these corridors don't look very wide, but it's because that's one of the things when you do a really big building. But they're gigantic, and we think if we have a little collapse of things, that people will be able to camp in the corridors, so the density will be actually much higher. Because you'd be able to pitch tents. I mean, they're just so this is a little SketchUp model. This shows that green space, and then this is interesting because this is our working drawings that have gone through value engineering that are sent off to the high-end rendering shop. So, and then they render it up, and they come with this thing that kind of looks like a real thing. So that's the park in back where Mission Creek runs under it. This is the egg. The egg is under construction now, and that's what the egg with the weird space cafe will look like in the end. And then this is 7th Street. And this is a picture we just took. These are variegated shingles, and the project architect he came up to me 5 times today, and he goes, "Oh, those shingles are looking really good." So that's the great thing about being an architect. You can have a small happinesses, that can make you really happy. The other thing we had to deal with here is we have the trains, and we also have the garbage truck rodeo that happens in NorCal, where they don't actually do garbage there. They just rev the trucks up in the morning and drive around in circles. It's it's really, it's true. That's what they do, and that's PDR. That's, what can I say? So we have these sound walls. So this is a 4-story glass sound wall. It's going to be pretty neat. It's got this design we did in fritted glass and colored glass. And this is again, I think, in the last few days, that face the garbage truck rodeo is the noisiest sound event we've ever experienced. And we do affordable housing. I take Caltrain down to, we work in San Jose, and at one point I realized I could see every affordable housing project we'd done on the peninsula from Caltrain. Which, Maybe it's because those people don't build there. And this is that video I was showing when you came in. Okay, I'll go through this. 86 million barrels a day. Okay, 2000. This is our oil consumption, and what's going to happen in the future. And if anybody's been to like China recently, China, India, they are driving now, and they're driving as much as they possibly can. So by 2015, we got to find and pump 50 more million barrels a day out of the ground. Okay, so Saudi Arabia pumps 9 million barrels a day, and they don't seem to be able to increase it. So that means you have to find, for the long run, by 2015, and then keep finding new Saudi Arabias. And it's like the tar sands. That's 2.5 million barrels. Ethanol, corn ethanol, which is driving people crazy, that's about 2.5 million barrels. So 50 is really hard, and the answer is it ain't going to happen. So I don't know. It's interesting. And then here's our design. This is a picture from the model maker's website of the model they did of downtown San Jose. And I find it not only interesting because it's like a picture of a freeway interchange. And she was incredibly proud of modeling the freeway. So proud of it that it made that the focus of the picture. So here's like downtown San Jose, and there's people driving by. So denial. I mean, it's cool. Okay, so it's interesting, and it's scary too, I guess. This is Amit Price Patel, who's doing this. This is something we're working on right now. It's on Octavia Boulevard. It's SROs. It's by the Performing Arts Center garage, where there's a really nice mural. It's again a building without parking, but they don't drive either, so pretty much don't drive. We've broken it up. It's part of the Octavia plan, so we're trying to make it break it up without making it look contrived. You can see the mural there, part of the mural. This is the plan with it's got retail and common rooms, and it's people who are they're coming out of Laguna Honda, and it's part of the idea that you don't have to put somebody in a hospital ward at $8,000 a month. That's what it costs. You can put them in supportive housing for about $1,000 a month. So there's enormous savings to the city building these things. Simply because other cities, they instead of putting them in the hospital, they just give them a ticket to San Francisco. That's true, actually. So this is that it's now a parking lot, and this is a really nice mural. So that's the view from the courtyard. And then this is the view. If you stand on the street and you look into the lobby, we think, if we did it right, if we didn't cheat, you'll be able to see the mural from the street still. So it's not completely covered up. And then this is from across the street. So that you'd be standing in that, looking in the front door and see the mural. And then again, this is the metal before value engineering. We're hoping it stays in there. It really needs to stay in there. That can't be gray stucco. And then this is these SRO rooms, which have a place for a bed, there's a studio apartment, accessible bathroom, a kitchen, closet. Okay, then this is right down the street. I'm just going to show this rapidly. This is Daggett Triangle, which is getting its draft EIR after 3 years is out. This is Hubble. No, this is Daggett Street. Daggett Street was this grand boulevard that was going to go to the bay, through Mission Bay, and gradually people forgot about it, and it just disappeared. It was railroad yards, it was this and that, but they still had drawn it, and it ends up, there's only one piece of it, and it's this enormously wide, very short street. And so our proposal is to make a park out of it, and have it be do our stormwater infiltration there, have a sort of a wetlands in the winter, and have it be a space in the summer that is useful to people. And that shows that park. And then the building's arranged with this slot that lines up with, what street is that? That's Connecticut, yeah. So from the freeway, you can see Connecticut. So it's the same width as the street right away. So it kind of continues that through the building. And then this is a picture of Millett Park, who's here, 16th Street, and it's this little triangular piece. And then we are proposing sort of a flex unit, that means it's a commercial unit. It has an apartment above it that it's not open to it, so you could live above it, or there could be something else going on down there that wasn't yours. But so it's puts activity on the street and puts sort of individual workshops. I know Dave Meckel was going. Well, it's just a great place for visiting artists. And then we'll finish up here with, we're going to go back to market rate. We did the Healdsburg Hotel, which I'm not going to show. And we're doing a green hotel for the same folks down the street from them, with this kind of green undulating roof. Again, that's something that we kind of drew and thought, oh, people are going to really, go after us and get mad. But everybody liked it, and I think it could be quite nice. So it's on Healdsburg Avenue. If you're familiar with it, this is the Chamber of Commerce, a little triangular park. It's got a retail edge and 2 stories of rooms, and then a few more rooms that pop up behind. There's the Chamber of Commerce. This isn't built yet. Digital again, and then that shows the Andrea Cochran, who's did the Current House, did a lot of stuff for us, and has really come into her own. She was a finalist in the Cooper Hewitt Design Awards. Is doing the landscape. We have a creek there, Foss Creek, which we're remediating, which means these are all like native plants, and you can kind of walk on it, but you're not supposed to put chairs out there. And then, actually, the Chamber of Commerce is the guy who's doing this is a guy's named Merritt Sher, who's a really interesting guy, and he says, yeah, it'll be really great. I'll allow the Chamber of Commerce to expand. He's giving them this space so that they will stay there, because he feels that that's really important for the community to have the Chamber of Commerce have enough room. So we have this thing where you walk over the property line and go into the building. He kept saying, why can't we put a door through the property line? And we kept saying, Merritt, we'll do the code stuff. You do the vision. And then these are these rooms. This is our other side of our practice. It's kind of like, this is kind of a relief from all the stuff about global warming and poor people. So these are for rich people. No, this is a budget, which means that it's less expensive than the Hotel Healdsburg, which means it isn't $400 a night; it's something less. We're doing a green stair there, and actually, this idea of a stair that's really nice to walk up and down was something we hit upon, and people really like to walk up and down stairs if they're nice. And it's not, it's good. It saves elevator energy. It also saves, it's good for people's cardiovascular health. It's just nice to do, and it took us a while to figure that one out. So make the stairs nice. And then the rooms are kind of interesting because they're flat, so you get this really nice kind of bathroom suite with a window. And I don't know, you stay in a hotel. When's the last time, like the motel you stayed in had a window in the bathroom? So again, small victories. And this is our lobby area, which is you go in. It's got a combination espresso bar check-in counter. And then this is another one we're doing for the same people that they just got on this Archiporn blog, and they really like the pool. And this is something, again, that we're proposing. And the client sent me an email and goes, I guess we got to do the pool now, because but the idea is to do this glass bottom pool up on the 6th floor that is over the entry. You got to go for this stuff. What can I say? Well, Merritt, he was in Australia, and there is a pool like this done by an engineering company, actually in their headquarters building, and he really wants to do it. So we keep saying, okay, Merritt, we'll try. Yeah. And this is the idea of this hotel is that we would do all the interiors with local artisans and manufacturers. So that would be have a really local theme, you know, where it'd be sort of like it's like the local food industry. This would take that into interiors and furniture. And that's been actually getting its EIR for the last 3 years or 4 years. Anyway, so this is the office. I don't know if people are here who didn't get their pictures on here, and I apologize to them. It's a great group of people, and you know, I just kind of stand up and ramble on and rant and rave, and they actually do all the work. So thank you very much, and I think it's an hour.